We've got Lucius here on Skype all the way from Sydney. You're in Sydney, right?
No, I used to live in Sydney, but I've been,
okay.
we moved north and now we're in Byron Bay. So I'm in a little town, I guess it would be 15 minutes north of Ballina, which is a bit of a main town. So it's called Tintinbar. It's in the hinterland a little bit. Nice. We're kind of back in the hinterland there.
Nice. Away from all the hustle and bustle of Sydney.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely wouldn't want to be there right now. That's for sure. And I think we made a conscious choice. Probably. Well, we wanted to do it a lot longer ago, but we kind of felt and knew something was coming, so it was strategically kind of planned to get out of the city.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
It sounds a little bit chaotic there.
It does, yeah. Yeah, it does. But yeah, perfect timing. I don't even know where to start. I might start just with how I first got into you guys. I actually, since I think the Just Visiting days, I was a big fan.
Oh,
and I actually got to see you guys, long time ago. The first two EPs were, for me, life-changing, to be honest. Not to not to rub your balls too much, but they did really change my opinion about Australian music as a whole. And I think I was in year 12 when I saw you guys play at the Big Day Out. That was one of my first Big Day Outs. You guys had a pretty small crowd, but me and a friend were up the front, and still to this day, I had never heard a sound like that come from.
I remember your face from that.
Really?
On the barrier.
No. Yes, I was on the barrier actually, but I had never heard such a heavy sound just come out of one guitar, a bass, and a drum kit. And you actually inspired me to keep drumming. And I think for a period of time, I actually had a setup that was. It's so cheesy, but it was very similar to yours, like the two crashes and the two splashes as well on the front. But and then I kept following you guys everywhere, and I had the privilege of running your street team at the time for the new normal.
Wow!
And I got a bunch of merch. I think we still have a bunch of merch here.
Cog lanyard pass hanging over there.
We got lanyards. We still got posters. I gave a bunch to my mum. She uses them when she cooks fried rice and shit. She puts them around the kitchen. No offense, because we had so many posters. There were like 1,000 posters that I couldn't give out at the time. But big fan since then.
Wow.
Did you think that whole phrase, the new normal, would be so resonant and so relevant today, or was that just by chance? Or?
Well, it's pretty ironic you say that, because yes, we did, and we knew that it had relevance because it actually means it's code for the New World Order. So you've just had the health minister come out today in Sydney, and she, and a couple of others have done it as well, and they've said, well, this is what has to happen in the New World Order, in terms of like businesses and getting passports and vaccine passports and whatnot to enter and all this type of nonsense. So, literally that's what that was. And I think there was an understanding that, given that we're quite well read in some respects to the global playbooks that are out there that anyone can read and study if they take the time to do it, that there was a concerted plan and business model that wanted to come about in the new world, and there was going to be a change. So it was, although it was kind of like a bit of a sci-fi album to some degree, there was an element of understanding and knowing that change is about to occur, which is going to affect everyone's lives. And we're going to have to be kind of fighting very, very hard for our fundamental rights and freedoms. Otherwise, we're going to be completely, smashed and taken over by, a corporate oligarchy of sorts. So, we kind of dialed that into that album, and we tried to put some of the paraphernalia that was on there, like the gas mask and the all the different types of things that come with, civil disobedience.
The megaphone.
Yeah, the megaphone.
Like
just all those things you see happening now. We haven't got to quite the violent part yet. which is a shame that it's. I don't mean it's a shame that we haven't gotten there. I'm saying it's a shame that it's probably going to have to get there. Unfortunately, for any type of if we're not being heard as people to be free and have our rights intact and a freedom to choose, well, then it's going to get ugly. And I think that's we're being coerced and bullied, unfortunately, and I don't think it's going to end well. And but that album was definitely playing out a typical kind of scenario or a foresight to some degree of what we understood, because we've always been interested in elements of world affairs and politics and how it all is run, and questioning and basically trying to work out what we're involved in, partaking in.
I'm actually more really surprised that that term New World Order is actually being thrown around a lot more nowadays, and coming from the health minister,
Gladys.
Other people have been throwing it. There's a Netflix documentary about 9/11 Turning Point, and in the trailer they use the term New World Order, and it's just become almost like a household term nowadays.
Yeah, it's weird that so-called conspiracy theorists were made fun of for using that term, and then it's thrown out by official leaders and people in Parliament, and you're like, what's going on? It's the typical example I always say of gaslighting. You tell someone that they're crazy for using that term, and then you go and actually use it. So there's this mixed. It's a mind game, I think. It really is designed to shock your system and confuse you. Yeah,
it's definitely an IQ test, this whole thing, in so many regards. And I mean, the reason why part of this has been part of my life is researching, trying to understand things, and because those terms like the New World Order as a term has been around for a long, long time. It's not something new. And I saw it on the back of when I was younger. I saw it on the back of a skateboard deck. The New World Order, Illuminati, the plan, which was all on the back of a skateboard deck. And as a kid, you kind of you read that and you go, well, that's kind of a bit. I've heard that before too. Now it's on a skateboard deck, and then you hear other things through growing up and everything like that, and then you start reading a few books, and you read 1984 or a few of those type of things, and you start to understand that. Yeah, you got a nice shirt. You start to understand that this is, there's a playbook here and it's playing out. I mean, if you just get Huxley's, Brave New World, 1984, George Orwell, and you get the Bible and a bunch of other ones with Revelations and all the rest of it, it's pretty damn succinct in what's coming down the pipeline. So
pretty much the blueprint is already in front of us. And I think if you study a lot, this is getting maybe a bit deep, but with the occult and things like that, they always have this philosophy that the plan has to be in plain sight for it to get energy. You know what I mean? Like they have to kind of tell you. Some say it's for them to absolve themselves of karma. If you tell the plan and go through with it, well, then you're too dumb to really to decipher what's happening. So therefore, you're not worthy of knowing what's happening. But yeah, you're right. It's been everywhere. I think like WWE, the New World Order,
the WCW, with Hulk Hogan and all them, new NWO.
And I love wrestling. I think professional wrestling is kind of a parody of real life. How there's a stage and everything's kind of scripted, but the people after a certain time forget that there's a script and that they're watching a show, and they get involved in it.
It's like they bank on the ignorance of people as well, just to sort of turn that blind eye. Yeah, to allow them to go apart, and then anyone else that says something about it is like, oh, you must be crazy.
Yeah, and it kind of normalizes it as well, because when you see all of the terminology used in pop culture, you're less likely to find it suspicious, because you're like, oh, I've heard that before. It's in the movie, it's in that. Oh, that's just normal, when it's really, really part of a bigger, more insidious plan, I think. But
there's definitely people out there that have, they have plans and models and business models that they want to achieve, And I think that's just been a part of history for a long, long time, especially if you're, you're quite rich and wealthy and you're in a high elite class. So, and you can own and basically dictate through all your ownership of all your companies and corporations and, what has to happen to formulate this business model, to bring it down for everyone to kind of be involved in and partake in, and through subversion and subliminal messaging and all sorts of things through the media and Hollywood and everything else. It seems like that, when you kind of, to me, it's really in plain sight. So it's so easy to see. And I think a lot of the people who perhaps have just kind of balked at this or heard it but never wanted to know about it, fair enough, but are now starting to ask some serious questions, And I think that's why there's probably a lot of people who are in shock. They're in shock that we're at this point now in history, or with what we're talking about and all the things we're talking about. They're kind of like, this is feelings, and we've heard, we understand the remnants of Nazi Germany and fascism and all that type of stuff. But we're starting to really feel those effects of how that was trickling down before they, did what they ended up doing. To try and basically, I guess, take control of people's minds and then turn them into a fascist dictatorship, or turn it into a fascist dictatorship, and do what they did, And that's pretty concerning. And I see a lot of people making parallels to that, making a lot of memes to that. I've uploaded a lot of memes to it because you inherently, instinctively feel something's not right. You feel your rights are being trodden on, and it's cause for alarm and concern. And so, and full well that the truth is something in war. The truth is the first thing to get assassinated, pretty much. So, I mean, here I am, a drummer in a band that came from Bondi Beach, that surfed his whole life, that did a bit of study and tried to understand the world that he lived in. And now on my socials, I'm completely banned on Facebook, on Instagram.
Yeah,
I'm shadow banned and blocked and banned. I can't even like someone's post, or I can't even follow someone, because now I'm within the little sticker that comes up, I'm a threat to the community, or to keep the community safe. So, and then I'm
absolutely absurd. That makes me angry, actually.
Yeah, and I'm shadow banned from. So, it's a real that to me is a real like a statement of that you're now in a completely fascist kind of dictatorship, or a business model, or a setup that's encroaching on your life. And if you don't say a certain thing, or kind of go along with the party line, as they say, the ministry of truth, which is through the news and the media, well, then you're completely ostracized and banned, and you're not relevant, and what comments you have don't count.
Yeah, if you're not part of the agenda of the party, so to speak, that you're a threat and you're a nuisance. Yeah.
Well, going on those threats, there was something that I'd seen in the US, like on CNN or something. They'd had a one of their plastered images and something, but they were saying, especially leading up to 9/11, being 20 years this Saturday from 9/11. But they were saying people questioning 9/11, people questioning COVID stuff, and I think they even tagged in like religious groups somehow are now deemed domestic terrorists.
Yeah,
and it's scary how just those things alone, anyone that wants to have a question and think about that stuff is labelled with something such extreme as that.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's
kind of terrifying.
It is terrifying when you bring it up like that. And I remember the show, The Twilight Zone, and that used to really freak me out as a kid. That show, I used to watch it and have a certain sense of reality with what I was kind of witnessing in the world as I was living as a young adult and young boy. I used to love that show, and it used to really trip me out. You really used to give me a sense of anxiety just watching The Twilight Zone, because it was so strange, the stories, but you could kind of dial into it and get taken away with it. And it's funny, it seems to come up in my mind quite a lot now, and some of those fears that I was feeling when I was watching those shows, because what we're kind of going through feels like The Twilight Zone. It feels like there's something really quite strange about the polarization of everything, and the dissemination of information, which is just not being heard across the board in terms of a broad spectrum of debates or concerns from not just the mainstream narrative. There's a whole plethora of people and, incredibly smart people who have, real legitimate concerns, but they don't get aired. They get shut down. They get censored. They get, shadow banned and all the rest of it. And that just, it speaks volumes, really does. And we're in a time where I think, people, as I said before, they're in shock and they've been quite bipartisan and trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
To try to do the best for, humanity and everything with this whole COVID thing. But, it's getting to that point now where it's like, this is not about health. This is like, we're seeing the destruction of, businesses. I can't play anymore. My whole income, I'm working in a factory now, like and my whole income has been taken away, pretty much. And, they're coercing me that if I want to get back and play, I have to take an experimental, they're calling it a vaccine. I don't know what it is because it hasn't been fully approved to be that. So, and it's got God knows what in it.
Well, it doesn't even work the way they said it would. Well, you can still get it and transmit it even if you've been vaccinated.
So that's right, and that coercion is obviously in my sector of business, but a whole lot of others, as you well know. So there's a mental mass mind trauma going on now that's got nothing just to do with like picking up some bug that has a 99.7 survival rate if you're under 80 and have no comorbidities, which is a great odds. You'd put all your money if a horse was at those odds, wouldn't you? So it's like there's no reason to get this or partake in an experiment. And when you're being pushed in and coerced to partake in an experiment, that's when you really go, hang on a minute, this is like a used car salesman. It's like really bad, real dodgy, rhetoric.
It was all the like all the guilt tripping as well. And I remember, like in the early days when the vaccine was first coming out, it was all about take the vaccine to protect your loved ones and protect those that can't do it. And I've seen so many of my friends and stuff that get the vaccine, and everyone that gets the vaccine becomes a virtue signal. Everyone's got to let everyone know that they've been vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
But they, it went on that do it for other people, do it to protect other people.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it doesn't. It doesn't do that.
No. So, yeah.
And the concerning thing about it, the kind of concerning thing about that now is, especially if you look at Israel, because they're a tiny bit ahead of us, but they're asking for a fourth booster now, and this is under 8 months of with what's going on. So you're taking and you're participating and signing up to an ongoing experiment that's now up to their fourth jab. Through coercion, obviously. You can't do this unless you've got this jab. And it's going to go, it's pretty easy to, and logically to I'm not really good at maths, but I can see the math on this, and where it's going is like not just 4, 5, 6, 7, and when it runs out, you've got to get your next one, and then you've got to take your side effect pills because, you might have some side effects, and that all envelops into some type of, passport that you have to have, which is another conversation.
That's coming as well.
And it's just like so concerning for people's rights and freedom and privacy, especially medical privacy and all the rest of it. I mean, I couldn't, even without knowing what I know with how this business model is rolling out for this global tyranny corporation takeover, the communist takeover, it seems, I couldn't take it anyway because I have certain allergies. So I wouldn't, I have to be careful with what I eat, let alone what I'm going to inject into my body. And my whole life for the last 10 years has really been about trying to find the best optimal health for myself because I've had serious issues that I've had to deal with. So, and they're, anaphylactic meets inflammatory dietary things. If I eat a certain food, this happens, right? My body gets triggered, boom. So I've walked down that path really diligently and tried to be very disciplined and learn and study about nutrition and health. And because it's not until you're really affected that you start to have a look at, okay, well, what am I putting in my body? Is that negative or positive or what's it doing? So, there's, and I'm at a point now with my eating and what I do where it seems to be okay, and I seem to be doing fine with it. I've just got to be careful, and there's triggers and everything, but I kind of feel like I've found a bit of a plateau or a little bit of a smooth sailing, so to speak, if I just stay along that type of a diet. But, I've got to be careful what I put in. So there's no way I would take and sign up to an experiment, especially if it's going to mean 1, 2, 3, 4 jabs ongoing. That's just that's ridiculous to me. That's retarded. And if you're clapping out there and you've had your jabs, and okay, good luck to you. That's your freedom of choice. That's what we're supposed to have. All the best to you. And you want to sign up for the experiment, that's fine. But don't, come back on people like myself or others who have other legitimate reasons as to why they can't participate in a medical experiment. And they don't want to. And just based on the whole fact of I don't want to, no, and crossing that line, that obviously opens Pandora's box for, well, you're not in a country that you thought you were in, or you're not as free as you thought you were. So,
yeah, the word selfish gets thrown around a lot, and it's ironic that the ones that are calling other people selfish are actually the selfish ones that assume that there's a one-size-fits-all solution for the whole population. And, to me, that is selfish. And also kind of weird that these same people are screaming about equality and diversity and all that great stuff, but it's there's nothing more discriminatory than telling someone what to do with their body. That, to me, is way more selfish than someone that wants to be critical about what they want to do with their body. But it's like you said, we're in the twilight zone. I believe everything's been inverted. I think now the selfish ones are taking control and calling the people that do have empathy and critical thought as the crazy ones. I really think that's by design. I don't think that's an accident by any means.
Yeah, and it's
but it does feel
interesting to understand why they would get to that sense of mindfulness in their own mind, or not being mindfulness as far as I'm concerned, but in their own mind, they would have justification to vilify other people like myself who have legitimate reasons, and apparently now can't go into a shop and buy food if I haven't got a vax vax prison, as I'm hurting them, being tated around as a good phrase for it. A vaccine prison passport. It's is that about health? So what, now I can't eat? So is it about health or is it about control? And is it about exclusion and segregation? And it's not about health. I mean, if you're out there and you're listening to this and you think this is about health, there's many words that could come to mind, but, it's kind of like, please check yourself at the door, in the sense of try to understand, like you said, it's not a one size fits all for all people. People have different, and that's what's the beauty about us as human beings. We have a different way of operating sovereignly, or as sovereign as we can be, with our mind and our thoughts and our beliefs. And that is important to, hold true to how you feel and think in the world, and how you respond to the world as well. It's very important that you have that sovereignty of mind, that you can ask questions, that you can, especially as something as serious as this, like if it's an experimental something, it's almost like now it's like you can't question at all. It's like, it reminds me of those days when you were younger. And what's worse than it, actually, when you had your peer group friends, and it was like you're going to go out and you're going to have a few, for the first time, you're going to drink tequila, and it was like, if you didn't do it, you got this peer pressure, So you did it, and then you ended up smacking the pavement with your face and throwing up all over yourself, because you kind of fell to peer pressure and bullying, and wanted to be part of the kind of gang, if you will, I mean, we've all probably experienced that in different levels, and different surroundings, through our communities and friends and whatnot. But it's so concerning. It's so concerning. It's very hard to I'm putting on a brave face as much as I can through this, and but now it's gotten to that point where if you're basically stopping me, and you're trying to say this is about health, and you're stopping me from not only my work and my job where I provide for my family, my wife and my kids, but now I can't enter a store to feed my family. Like if people can't,
literally taking away your choice. Yeah.
If you can't put 2 and 2 together, and that makes 4. But we're in the twilight zone, right? So it's 2 and 2 equals 5, which is what they said in those books, right? Like 1984 and the rest of it. So people have believed that 2 and 2 equals 5. You know, they've lost all rationale and logic. It's just gone out the window, and that's really scary. You know, really, really scary. Especially as again, it's a 99.7 survival recovery rate if you've got no comorbidities and you're under 80, right? And none of us can honestly say we're walking around in our environment seeing people dropping like flies to this pandemic.
No.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. And, you know.
It doesn't, yeah. I'm very much a spiritual kind of guy. I'm not sure about you, but
Namaste.
I think Namaste.
Come, Lord Jesus, be our guests. Let these gifts to us be blessed. How many more can we go through? There's a lot of great spiritual works. There's a lot of great spiritual, philosophies, and a lot of great spiritual commentary and ideals that I really align with and subscribe to. And I think they're very moral and they're very dear to my heart. You know, I'm not a religious guy, but, you know, from what I've read from different religions and different philosophies and different things, there's many texts and many things that really invoke my spirit to try to be a better man, you know, as much as I can be.
Absolutely, yeah. I was going to say that I don't think it's a coincidence that it's called Corona, which means crown, which is your third eye, your crown chakra, if you want to believe that woo-woo stuff. But that's what I've always seen it as, almost like a mind virus. It's infecting it's triggering your fear response, and it's no coincidence either that the new strain's called Delta, which is like the deepest sleep pattern. You know, your brain goes through different frequencies when you enter sleep. So I think a lot of this is more of a spiritual war rather than a physical, a 100%. Biology type war.
100%.
They're attacking us where it hurts the most, and that's our mind.
Well, they've been trying to do that since trying to calcify the pineal gland with fluoride.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think all of our environment is designed to shut us off from spirituality. I think it's all by design. Yeah.
And I think the interesting thing about that is when they're shutting down music and they're shutting down places of worship and things of that nature, and people gathering in their own homes with family together, what that does is invoke a sense of spiritedness inside our sense of being. We call it good spirit or a happy spirit or and it lifts our spirits, we say. These are the things we talk about when we go and see a rock show or something of that nature, or people go to church and they pray and they sing together, or people go with the family and they get together and it uplifts the spirit. If you've ever seen a dead person, there's a big difference between a dead person and a spirited person. It's really simple to see. It's like a rock when you touch them when they're dead. Right? When they've got spirit and life in them, it's the essence of their being and their spirit. And they're incredible, that incredible magnitude just to be alive and the emotions and all the rest of it that come with it. It's like it's electric. It's incredible. It resonates. The two are so different when you see them. When I bury the chooks in the backyard because they've been taken by a snake or something, it's like, wow, that's like, but then you see the other chook over there is full of life and full of this spirit and full of this energy and full of this
vibration, isn't it?
This, and we can get all, as they say, hippy dippy on it, but there's real tangible things within it that just you can't ignore, and I think you're 100% right that this has been a real effort to squash and get rid of the spirit, because when the spirit tunes in sovereignly to its relationship to nature and what people have said, God or the universe or whatever kind of thing you want to underline it and label it, just that understanding that there's more to this what we're experiencing. So you have this relationship with nature and as we say, some people say God and all the rest of it. That's a private kind of a belief that you manifest inside yourself, and you can kind of sow inside yourself. And I think when you take that away, that's really quite dangerous, And if we kind of understand that our rights as human beings, our rights as people, and the authority with those rights comes from having purpose to be here and being alive and being created through creation, which means, the omnipotent force of creation, what we call God, gives us that right. It gives us our rights. It means that we have a right to be here. And, that in turn is, I think, a threat to other people who want to control. Yeah. It really
Absolutely,
is. And I think that's been going on for a long, long period of time, because you read history and you see documentaries and you read books and blah, blah, blah. It's always been this fight about, the spiritual sense of connecting with God, nature, universe, whatever. And, this authoritarianism that comes in to try to squash that. And people, the battle, the duality of it is been ongoing for quite a long time, it seems. And we're kind of like in as it says, the last days. It's really quite fascinating to be part of it at this time. And, we're obviously here at this time to experience this. And I'm sure and obviously when I think back to like, wow, here I am as a human being, and what it must have taken for the clans of families and lineage of people that have got me to where I am to have this experience today. The families, the trials and tribulations they would have gone through to keep the family going, to keep the life going. I mean, to be here as a human being and experiencing this, even though it's quite, heavy at the moment and all the rest of it, just that alone is like, wow, like what an incredible feeling to kind of come over you when you go, well, people have really worked hard for you to have the opportunity to be free, sovereign, and alive, and have an experience.
There's that quote,
and loved.
Fight
and loved,
like
and loved.
And loved, yeah. That's the universal thing. But fight like your ancestors are watching. I love that quote.
Beautiful.
And I think that, like you said, I don't think I'm here by accident. Some would even say that we might have chose to be here and that we serve a higher purpose, that we've forgotten, we've got amnesia for some reason, or spiritual or karmic amnesia, but we've forgotten why we're here. And I think part of it is to share and awaken others. I know that sounds cheesy, but I really do believe that in my heart, that I'm not here by mistake. And even something as seemingly small as just talking to you, I think there's great purpose in everything that we're doing. And I think the whole system is trying to belittle us into thinking that we're nothing but a giant accident, and that you serve no purpose. You're just here to work, pay taxes, and then that's it. If you get your house and kids and your car, that's good enough. But I think there's more to it. But it's a great time to be alive.
And that's when you should have the freedom of thought and philosophizing and questioning and having experiences with all different types of because to be here and have consciousness and just to be here, like I think that's what really chuffed me down a path of the reasons of why the songs are like they are in our band, or some of the commentary, or the words we write, because there was a point in my younger life that I hit that it was like something else is going on here. Like I've been distracted with it, but there's something deeper going on here. Now, what's going on? And then the anxieties arose and all the different types of questionings arose, and then you feel like you're kind of, out in the desert, it's like, what's going on, So you start to question, you start to analyze, you start to read, you start to philosophize, you start to, try to understand the world that you're in. And I think when you have that ability to do that in a vast spectrum and range of mind, and that freedom to do that, that is a threat to other people who want to control your belief, and what you think and feel and see is real. So this is really about a battle for reality and who controls the narrative of how reality works. Because when you've actually got the freedom to think about anything and question anything, that's real freedom. And when you haven't got the fear to do that, that's even better. That's groundbreaking stuff, and that's where your renaissance come from in art and all the rest of it, because artists have always played their part in really trying to push against belief systems or governments or whatever it may be at the time. Just trying to bring in that type of artistic. Well, it's a creation, right? I mean, in the sense that when we look through our eyes and we witness what we witness, it's an incredible artistic creation. I mean, Earth has the word art in it. Take off the E and the H. Whatever it is. It's got art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty convinced that they're just trying to harness some energy from us, whether it be negative or positive. I mean, because we talk a lot about our frequencies, and I'm a very firm believer that the human body itself produces an energy. Even going on to say a scientific kind of aspect of it, that we create and we harness energy through our human bodies. And I know Daryl and I talk and go a little bit crazy that there's probably some very evil people up in high places that do want to try and harness some sort of negative energy. And honestly, I feel right now like there is a big outpour of both positive and negative energy at the moment. And I feel like there's a major push to try and draw negative energy from people, but there seems to be a lot of positive energy pushing back as well.
Absolutely, and I think that's nature almost. That's inherent in humans, that you can't just have evil perpetrated forever. I think naturally there's always an uprising. There's the tides always change, and I do think that we're being hit with really nasty low frequencies to keep us in the fear state. Because as we all know, people that are fearful will accept anything. As long as they get certain, when things are uncertain. Even Henry Kissinger said that when things, when people are faced with uncertainty, they will do anything to get that certainty back into their life, even if it means settling for less and less freedom. They'll do that. They'll do that if it feels better. No one wants to feel that. So,
well, not to quote one of your songs, fear is the virus they use to divide us.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And it works really well.
It works well, and they've been doing it since day one. It's very easy to manipulate people when they're scared. It really is, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that whole energy thing you were touching on is so relevant and just so on point, I mean, everything we do through our daily lives is an input and an output of energy, and you can feel it when a song plays. You can feel the energy and vibration you get from those frequencies. A high singer can break a glass. Cymatics is incredible with the shapes and how that's designed in terms of like its geometric shapes when the frequency spectrum goes through its whole thing, and all of a sudden the shapes change with the vibration of the sand that it's on, or whatever they're using, the salt, whatever. I mean, it's undeniable. Yeah, undeniable. And if you put people in a heavy low frequency trance, and they're just like become like putty in your hand. But as you said, also it's like a very good opportunity, and there's a positive opportunity here to. It's a battle for what's going to come forth now. This is we've been wanting change, we've been needing change, we've been seeing a lot of negative aspects about the way we live and contribute and all the rest of it, and we want to change. So it's just who's either business model or way of life is going to kind of rule the day for a while, because it's interesting to note that here we are, and we have been relatively free in our societies, and we're able to have this conversation, given the history that goes back about control and freedom. So here we are, still talking about freedom. I mean, if you weren't free, you wouldn't be kind of, I guess, talking about it, because you wouldn't be free to talk about it. You'd be so kind of like, under the thumb and the boot that it would be forbidden. The vocabulary words wouldn't even be there. But we're literally, we're at that cusp now. We're at that,
it actually does feel like transition. It is like talking about freedoms is feeling a bit taboo. Like it's going to become a bad, like you look at all the censorship stuff going on now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like that whole idea that, we say we are free to ask these questions and talk like the way we are, but it feels like there's so many people that are that don't want that to happen. And that's getting scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, we throw around the word communism a lot. I've got a little bit of Chinese heritage. My parents know what oppressive governments are like. That's why we came to Australia in the first place 30 years ago. And the irony, I know, for my parents to be like, wow, like we might have to move back to Asia because there's less of a police state there. How funny is that?
Oh, that's just amazing, isn't it? And I've heard other nationalities say the same thing. Like this. What's that? Andrew Bogue, is he? He's the basketball player. He's just kind of really famous. I think he played in the Olympics or something, and he's come out. And he's been quite vocal now on his Instagrams and things like that. I follow and listen to what he has to say, and he basically says the same thing about his family, who went through a very draconian, authoritarian type of a state-run country, and they escaped and they came out here, and he was born and all the rest of it, and he's basically, his parents would be, he talks about his I think it's his grandparents would be rolling in their graves right now. That's just like unbelievable. It would just be like, and this is actually why he's fighting, and he's actually speaking up as someone who's been in the high tiers of sporting, because he knows that they gave him his freedom to be able to do what he wanted to do, and now he just feels like it's in his duty of care to kind of speak out against what's kind of going on, and the kind of authoritarianism that's kind of oppressing us all in many different ways.
Absolutely, and I not to play the whole race card, but I feel like we need more people of color speaking out, because we have to smash the stereotype that the only ones that are kicking up a fuss are fat, yokel white people that care about freedom. Like that's a very bad stereotype, and I'm really glad that people like Rukshan and the guys from the 5/8 Take are trying. Like I love it when people smash their stereotype. I love seeing people of color going, you know what, it's not just white people trusting their government. There are people like us that are here, that we've been here. We're Australian. I've been here 30 years, but we're fighting for everyone.
Yeah, it just shows
not a race thing.
It just shows that everyone's a human being.
Exactly.
It really just comes down to, are you a decent human being or are you a wanker? I don't know.
And there's those things where you can't agree with everybody all the time. Like it's like you don't agree with your mum or your sister or your dad all the time. It's like, and it's the same with politicians or people in power or in a band. When you're in a band, you don't always agree all the time. But there's some things sometimes you do agree on.